I'm recording.
Can you hear me now? Yes, it does.
Excuse me, my crayon is a monkey. I find this conversation
Some interest in learning a bit more about technology, philosophy, and I like to...
I'm an educator. Absolutely. We're going to stay anonymous.
That's a cop out.
I thought jingles was like Dutch for cheers.
You can handle it. So, welcome to Beyond Binary Thinking. Because the world is often filled with far too much nuance and rich perspectives to always pick a side.
So apparently we all need more Europeans criticizing American foreign policy. And so this week we are sticking our noses in to discuss what the hell America is up to, and whether or not they're saving the world, making it worse, or if President Trump is accidentally about to kick off World War III.
Before we get into that, let's introduce today's guest. Pablo, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Could you please tell us a bit about who you are and what you're about?
Hi everyone. Thank you. My name is Pablo. I am, I'm not super important, but basically, I'm just, I'm a guy. I'm American, born and raised in Miami, and I've been living outside of the U.S. for quite a while now, for about 7 years. And I work for an airline, and it's a faithful customer of the Boeing company. So, that's one of the companies that have a more influential role in the way the United States conducts its foreign policy. But other than that, that's about it, I think.
As an American with a passport, you're one of the most interesting minorities.
Well, that is true. There's not many of us that hold passports, but that number's growing.
So I'm going to open strong right out the gate. America's power seems to be in decline. Is this a bad thing? And will anyone outside of America mourn this?
I assume that when you say that America's power is in decline, you mean her ability to project influence abroad. I mean, America is still very much the number one nuclear superpower, and she could destroy the planet umpteen times over if she really wanted to.
I'm not saying that Orange Man doesn't have as much credibility and diplomatic nuance as his predecessors. But no, actually I am. I'm exactly saying that. Yeah, I don't think anyone's listening to America these days.
Exactly, because what we've seen under Trump is this like massive reduction in America's ability to project soft power. And that's now being capitalized on by, like Russia, China, as well as the smaller countries like Iran, North Korea, and so on. I don't know if this reduced ability to push America's weight around through non-military means is good, but it's certainly worrying.
I think, it does cause a bit of chaos, given the fact that, what it looks like happening is we're going back to like a pre-World War II phase where we just wanted to stay out. We just, America first was the thing back then,
isolationism.
We have two oceans next to us, a friendly neighbor to the north, so we can afford to just not stick our noses in. But I think after the World War II, we did the opposite, and we kind of extended our tendrils all over the earth. And now that we're kind of taking a step back, it looks like a lot of different forces or powers are filling in those voids left.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's a little bit of a misconception, actually, because I think a lot of people imagine that it's the Cold War that started American imperialism, but America has actually been extending those tendrils in the 1800s, well before the First or the Second World War, like Philippines.
Well, that's definitely true. One of the main strategies that the United States had for well before, like you stated, even before the 1900s, is we kind of started annexing little islands here, little islands there, and actually it's funny because they say that the map of the United States is actually not a true representation of what the United States actually is, because it doesn't account for all the territories held throughout the world. Even it used to be a debate whether Hawaii should even be considered a a part of the United States simply because it's simply too far. Even though there's a sizable American population, we didn't want to look like we're an imperialist power that we are.
Yeah, exactly. Like why is Hawaii a state when Costa Rica isn't?
Puerto Rico, right?
Oh, so
not
Puerto
Costa
Rico.
Rica.
Sorry, one
Yeah,
of the two.
Well, there's a whole other debate we can say about that.
Well, this is the problem. Like, as you said, America gets involved in a lot of things. So should we focus it on South America and the Middle East?
Sure.
Obviously, there's lots of intersections there. Like, there's China and Iran have a place to play, and Russia. So it all gets complicated. But, for now, let's try and keep it focused on just those two regions.
If we're talking about 2020, with Trump, the focus is Venezuela, Middle East, obviously, as it always is, and North Korea. North Korea we can ignore because it's a little bit of a joke, but the most recent thing is obviously the assassination of Qasem Soleimani in Iraq, although he's Iranian. And I think this assassination made me realize that it was actually Iran rather than the United States that actually won the Iraq war. I think it's basically highlighted huge failings in American policy over in Iraq, and it kind of begs the question, what have they been doing there for the last 17 years? What was the whole point of the Iraqi invasion if at the end of the day it's Iran who's taken over leadership there?
Well, I think the answer to that is a different approach to how to exert your influence over the region, whereas we came in with straight military might, just flexing muscles all day, and it doesn't account, which is already a part of the legacy of Western influence in the region, is not accounting for cultural sensitivities and how to deal with the people there. But it turns out that Iran, they have ties with the different cultures in that region already. And so when our strategy of just exerting our power, our sheer military might, it kind of backfired and created this, we took out a ruthless dictator who was keeping order. And when that order fell, it was very easy for Iran to come in afterwards and kind of pick up the broken pieces. And again, they have ties, religious ties, especially with a lot of Iraq. And so they have the soft power that's necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. One thing which Qasem Soleimani did, he was actually uniting the Shia militias and Sunni militias, which is fairly unprecedented in that part of the world. He was pretty successful at what he was doing, which is why he was considered to be the prime minister of Iraq. But it's you're completely right. Iraq is in Iran's neighborhood. They are always going to have a lot. It's always going to be a lot more easy for them to exert influence in the area. So why is America even involved in Iraq in the first place, considering it's on the other side of the planet?
Well, we know why. I mean, the same reason Britain and France were before then, right?
Empire.
There's oil. Well, not just empire for empire's sake. There's oil, and there's also the canal and
the Strait of
Hormuz, bridge between 3 continents, right?
Exactly.
It's an important bit of land and a bit of sea.
If you choke out the Strait of Hormuz, you're choking out a lot of the world's energy supply.
Yeah, and look at what happened. When Egypt changed government, and the world was crippled during that period. So pretty simply, like most Western, shall we say, governments have realised that you need to control that area, especially with our current addiction to oil.
And let's not forget that the reason the current leadership in Iran is in place is because it was a reaction to the British requesting we get involved. Simply because Iran was a growing superpower, they were super democratic society. Or sorry,
well, yeah. How far back do you want to go, right? Because there's the Shah that was our puppet that got overthrown.
Yeah, so it's
so arguably we caused the current government in Iran is a direct fallout of our interfering in that area.
Yeah.
And the only reason why is because over energy.
Well, no, it's also the fact that the democratically elected leader in 1953 was a socialist, and obviously we can't have socialists in control of oil. That's just lunacy. See Venezuela.
So yeah, I think a lot of why we're there has to do with oil. But I mean, there is like, you can't also discount. There is a element in American society, a very powerful element that is very religiously motivated. Also, so there's a right wing, very ultra Christian wing that it has a lot of influence in the government that. Especially as it relates to Israel policy. And that's purely like ideology, you know what I mean? Just,
you think? Because I'm never sure, right? Like, are they genuinely ideologically so about defending Israel that they want to turn Iran into glass?
well,
Yeah.
Or are they being manipulated by people that want to use that fear to justify a war?
There
Like-
are genuinely fundamentalists in American, like with power in America, who genuinely believe in the sort of fire and brimstone revelation, end of the world kind of bullshit. It's frightening.
And that will only happen when World War III starts in that region.
So but essentially they're trying to, like, it's as crazy as it sounds, there's people who are like, yo, we need to spark this apocalypse right now. That we need the rapture to come up.
Yeah.
So when we're wondering why America doesn't have a more coherent strategy, there's people that are actively trying to do the worst thing possible in the region. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Check.
But I mean, it's a minority, but it's a powerful, influential minority.
Yeah.
And
you have Betsy DeVos. Her brother Eric Prince is the founder of Blackwater, the mercenary group. They are both fundamentalist
they're
Christians.
massive.
They're both like fundamentalist, end of the world kind of lunacy. And they have like this crazy amount of influence and power, like the whole family does. It's terrifying. But I think,
Blackwater made more money than most. Like Halliburton's the other one, right? There's a few companies you can name that made a unbelievable profit from the second and arguably third Iraq war, I guess we're in now. But the question is, and it hints back to what we were saying before, like, do we think that America's strategy is wrong and impotent, or if it's a for-profit war? Right, so if either you believe you should start World War III there, then okay, the strategy's fine. Or if it's all being run by companies trying to make money, then arguably the profit is fine. It's like curing a disease isn't profitable, right? Like, and a short war that ends and makes for a strong, lasting peace isn't profitable either. So, is that too cynical a viewpoint, or are we really just looking at weird, corrupt?
I mean, because you see that in almost any other industry. Like you mentioned, medicine and pharmaceutical industry.
The reason why drugs aren't being legalized because there's too many people profiting from that.
Exactly. So
prison.
It's a cash cow,
complex,
So like you want to, like you say, you want to milk it for as long as possible. And I mean, you can't discount those elements. You can't. I'm not going to say that everybody making decisions at the White House sees it through that framework, but there are the elements that do.
Yeah, like the lobbyists which are pushing it, Raytheon, all this of arms manufacturers, the military-industrial complex, so on. They are always going to be pushed for the
Dick Cheney
forever
himself, right?
Like Halliburton and all the rest of it.
This is why I get so annoyed with out there conspiracy theories, because I have a real problem with things that are genuinely verifiable fact that no one disagrees on, right? So Halliburton, Dick Cheney on the board of directors, making loads of money, making loads of decisions that directly made their stock share go up 800% or whatever, right? Like, that's all observable, demonstrable fact. So before people start being like, oh, but maybe this theory, or maybe, I'm like, no, we're not doing anything about the things we know about. So I don't care about your crazy random maybe this until we start fixing things that we actually can prove.
Where it's like, it's on paper, it's not speculation, you see the result.
Yeah. What are we doing about that? Nothing. Well, then I don't care about what if, some other theory. Right?
But yeah, because the crazy thing is that the people who are profiting it's not necessarily American people. It's large corporations, and I sound like an arch-communist just saying that sentence. But it costs American taxpayers $32 million per hour.
Yeah, for those that don't realize, like Afghanistan is a $1 trillion war and counting. Iraq's about the same.
Yeah, no, that is predicted. Iraq and Afghanistan and all the other engagements since 2001 is currently costing the US $3 trillion, which is a unbelievable amount of money. Like $3 trillion, you need to look at all the zeros to really understand that that's a huge, ludicrous amount of money. But, universal healthcare...
Especially considering...
Whoa. Universal healthcare, how are we going to pay for that,
And again, honestly, like, being less cynical, if you genuinely were overthrowing dictators and installing democracy in the area, then I'm actually not for putting a price on human lives.
But that's,
if that's the objective,
that's not what
then fine. The problem is we're about to make a deal with Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and give them back power, and we're about to give up Iraq and give it to Iran. So what the fuck did we achieve for that $3 trillion? I'm struggling.
Well, I mean, I guess it's hard to admit that you're fucking it up. So you throw more money at it, you know what I mean?
Double down, right? Like sunk cost fallacy. You're like, oh no, we're not quitters. Yeah, like another $1 trillion should patch this up nicely.
Yeah, but that's the fundamental question. Is this a cynical forever war that's just being continued to just make money, or did they fuck up and then trying to just course correct? They're still fucking up. They're trying to course correct. They're still fucking up because the weakness of the American democracy is that you have 4 or 8 year terms, and after that your entire foreign policy could change. Whereas if you have a dictatorship like Iran, they're going to have the same consistent foreign policy for 30, 40 years. So now, say what you will about Syria, at least Syria can depend on Iran. If you compare that to the Kurds, who now Trump just took power, the Kurds get betrayed. Well, go back to Iran. Trump takes power, and he just tears up the Iran deal. And if you're dealing with a country which only has an 8-year shelf life in the foreign policy,
what's the promise worth? What's the strategy worth? Right? Like
that's definitely a challenge. I mean, that's supposed to be the benefit of of representative democracy, right? You cycle out your leaders, but then you have increasingly so all our geopolitical rivals are becoming the opposite. More authoritarian, more emperor-like. Putin is on his 80th term.
120% of the vote. Like he's doing really well.
And Xi Jinping just became president for life.
And interestingly, especially countries in Southeast Asia have for years been sold the American dream of democracy will stabilize your economy and do your markets. And they've looked at America and they've looked at China and been like, I think we'll go with the Chinese model. We don't really believe in democracy that much. They're not really buying the dream anymore.
Well,
no one else is falling for it. And America has always believed its own propaganda.
I don't think that's the case. Again, you said something earlier about if America was going around toppling dictatorships and installing democracies, fair enough. But what America's been doing for the last 100 years is toppling democracies and installing dictatorships.
Well, I think a way to understand kind of what's the rationale, I think, is especially when it comes to South America, is actually having control of wherever there might be a risk, right? So again, we for ages since we started, we didn't have to look outward at all. We had the benefit of a good just natural geography around us. And
you had the benefit of going westward, and
Well, yeah, but
by geography,
while that's happening, we're not having another war of 1812.
Right,
there's no one else coming to threat us, so our army can focus on eradicating the indigenous population.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And while that's happening, once they took control of once all the westward expansion happened, the only way to look is south. So we immediately went after the Caribbean, and after we set up our stronghold, then it's okay. How do we control South America so that we're in control of the continent? And once we're in control of the continent, it's like, all right, let's make sure no one else can control their continent. So
and the amazing thing is when you say we, like, it's worth delving into what that means, because it sometimes sounds like this leftist pinko conspiracy theory about the military-industrial complex. But again, it's demonstrably historically true, right? That not only were the first pioneers going westward, like independent entrepreneurs, right? They were told by the government, whatever you take is yours, go for it, right? We're not going to back you up, but go for it. If you can shoot enough Indians to hold the land, then it's yours. And likewise, when they went into Central and South America, it was often big corporations, right? You literally had banana republics.
Yeah, exactly that.
And that's always been like it tied in with how America does imperialism, is the privatization of it. And I think that's what's so damning, is that we have I would never want to see a privatized fire service. I can only imagine your house being on fire and the guy outside negotiating whether he's going to put the fire out. And that's how American healthcare looks like to us. And unfortunately, the danger is we've seen that's what the military is to America. It's also been privatized. These groups like Halliburton and Blackwater. It's a for-profit business, which is mental to me.
Yeah, it's definitely, right now, as it is, it's kind of a corporate oligarchy, where it's, you have these elites who are in charge of these corporations, who are influencing policy, and the very fact that they've influenced policy reinforces their ability to continue influencing it, because it's basically get as much money you can and then trickle it to everyone who needs to get elected, and they'll just basically write the laws for you. I think it's a
flawless democracy is what you're looking for.
A shining beacon, as they refer to it.
So it's funny because a lot of times, if you look at the voting record of Congress and you look at polls of what people want, it's always not the same. And that just goes to show that first of all, we don't pay attention to elections until it's election time, and we get caught in the hype. So it is a matter of who's spending more advertising money. And
there was that ruling, wasn't there? I think it was 10 years ago, where they were arguing that lobbying interference in elections.
Unlimited
They were
money.
arguing that it was, but that's called free speech. Money is speech.
Exactly.
And corporations are people.
Citizens
And
United.
People have the right to free speech. Therefore, corporations have the right to buy politicians.
Exactly.
And that was the ruling.
I always say, if that's the case, you should be able to put a corporation to death.
That actually reminds me of my favorite story about the Koch brothers, speaking of libertarians, because the Koch brothers spent, umpteen hundreds of millions influencing US politics, and especially pushing through like young Republicans and so on, who overwhelmingly have turned to Trump. So it's like disseminating this libertarian propaganda has just created Trump supporters. But the Koch brothers, they hated Trump. They just really don't like him, and so their entire plan is just backfired. I find it hilarious, depressing, but hilarious.
Well, I mean, at the moment they have no choice but to sit in bed with him. At the end of the day, it's what you have in a guy like Donald Trump is a guy who knows how to captivate people through the lens of a television. He's a master of what to say. Think about it this way: he ran the top reality TV show in America for like 8 years straight. That means he had who knows what kind of research into what's the right thing to do, what's the right thing to say, all this type of focus group, and basically got into the heart, like understood the hearts and minds of America.
TV has better analytics and more money in it than politics.
So that's his sword. He knows how to wield it better than anybody. The Koch brothers just saw it as like, okay, we have all the money, so if you just throw money at the problem, it'll do what you want.
Well, it worked out for them in the end, because their only motivation is basically tax cuts. They have this ideological hatred of taxes, and so as long as
and because of their background in fracking, they want as little restrictions on the environment as possible. which Trump is a big friend of.
Yeah, deregulation and tax cuts. That's what they wanted, and that's kind of what Trump's delivered. Now, by allying with Trump and the base that Trump represents, that is, U.S. government swinging far right, like further right than it already was, which was pretty far right, and that is worrying. You were talking earlier about authoritarians and how the rest of the world's become more and more authoritarian, but so is the U.S.
Yeah, well, I think it's a pendulum. I think first of all,
that keeps on swinging
Trump,
right.
Donald Trump under his
That's
funny. Like, I think Donald Trump, like you said, he understands what gave him the edge, the little nudge he needed to win. But at the end of the day, about half of the country supports him, and it's not all racist people.
It's about 24%.
If you travel throughout America,
well, look, guys, if people don't vote, then who cares what they think? Like I really think like that's all. That's how democracy works, right? Like, you can count the numbers of people that voted against him, but if they didn't or don't like him in a poll, but if they don't vote, their political power is null. It doesn't matter.
Yo, I'm from Florida. You travel throughout Florida, you're gonna see a lot of support for Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
If you travel anywhere, go to Boston, you're gonna see a lot of support for Donald Trump. Because it's not just about his dog whistle racism, and it's not even dog whistle no more. But like, it is, some people purely vote based off of, yo, my stocks are up. What's up?
But do you think that is support for Donald Trump or just dissatisfaction with the system, and he represents a break from the status quo?
Well, I think it's just what it has always been. Nobody cares about anything except unless it directly affects them. So, You have everybody thinks the stereotypical Donald Trump supporter is like this super southern guy from Louisiana, but no, you go to any cosmopolitan city in San Francisco, in Boston, in New York, you're gonna have the same dudes that like are, in their suit and tie, running businesses, running bars, running restaurants, whatever it is. There's a wide support for Donald Trump as president, and it's not just from the more nefarious, historically, like what you'd consider like evil, like super racist elements that are trying to bring back.
I think labeling those people as racist is super unhelpful, and it poisons the conversation, because what you need to realize is that the argument is made, right, that it's Bernie or Trump, and Bernie wants to take your money, and Trump wants to make you rich, and it's portrayed by the media, who have every interest to stop all the regulations and taxes that Bernie wants to do, that we all know probably wouldn't hurt the average American, but would hurt the big corporations. And so the news will just feed into that cycle of greed and self-interest, right? But the left falls on its own sword at every opportunity, because they make it about racism. It's like, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Like, people aren't voting for the Ku Klux Klan. They're voting for money, like you say, in their pockets.
David Duke did support Trump, but I would posit that...
Well, yeah, but that conflation isn't helpful.
Yeah, so check this out, right? There's people who voted for Obama who turned around and voted for Donald Trump.
A lot of people, right?
And also, the thing is, like, you have to think about, like, the story of Donald Trump is, whoa, he upset the elite, the right-wing elite.
At a time when everyone's like, fuck the elite, right?
At the moment, it's the same story on the left. There's a left elite, a Democratic Party elite, who want to maintain control. And their way of maintaining control is a lot similar to the elite of the Republican Party.
And everyone's cheering for Bernie because of it, right? They're like, fuck that.
And historically, they rely on minority vote to give them the same nudge that the racist vote gave to Donald Trump. So, but the thing is, they just want the vote. They're not doing anything to appeal to it. So it's like, hey, we're not the racists, and vote. If you let them win, then you're gonna get the next Hitler into office, and you're gonna be sent to internment camps, whatever. So that's the fear that the Democratic elite likes to elicit.
Whereas if you vote
to maintain their hold.
Whereas if you vote Democrat, then they'll ensure that all the detention center employees are equally mixed between men and women.
There will be lots of transgender bathrooms in the detention centers.
Exactly, yeah.
So
it's
I think that's like a common thing that a lot of people don't realize is although maybe not everyone's happy with Donald Trump, the person who's saying, yo, my stocks are up, they might also say, I wish he'd shut the fuck up. You know?
So this leads to a question I've really wanted to know, like, and we've alluded to it a couple of times now. How important is the president? Because clearly America has some kind of agenda, right? And I like to think that when a new president comes into power, having had no preparation for the job whatsoever, the Pentagon doesn't just be like, so, what country are we going to bomb today, boss? I hope they have a plan, right?
I think it's the Pentagon which goes to the president like, hi, these are free envelopes, pick one and we'll invade. But yeah,
that's kind of it kind of works like that in a way. They present the president with options. Yo, we can do this, you can do that, or you can really go in and do this.
Yeah. Oh, none of these options are peace and negotiations and diplomacy. No.
Well, that's how they killed Soleimani. That was literally the U.S. military giving Trump the choice of like, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, or we can drone strike him. But Trump went like, wow, that sounds amazing, let's do that.
Yeah, apparently, that thing where you and it's called like choice architecture, right? I use it in sales all the time. So you're like, okay, we have the cheap option, the super expensive option, and then the client goes for the middle option. You're like, very good choice there, well done. And so they went for like we could do nothing. That's a bit of a wimpy choice, so we could go crazy and like drone strike the guy. And they were just trying to put it in there, apparently. I've heard this from sources inside the Pentagon who said that they put it in there as an option that they're like, he'll never go for that, but then he'll make the middle of the road option seem sensible by comparison. And he went, yeah, fuck it, let's drone him. And everyone was like, what?
So I think you're right. It's how effective is a president who can serve 4 to 8 terms? If after his first term he might get voted out or whatever, or after like what happened to Obama, they could just shred up any agreement that was made between nations. And I think so. We're talking about an elite that holds power versus a people who are supposed to vote in their representatives. I think when you talk to American people, they want peace, right? We just don't want to get blown up. First and foremost, we don't want to get blown up. But we also don't want to send our people out to die in stupid wars. So, like, what's the middle between 9/11 and full-blown invasion in Iraq?
Well, they found it, right? And it's drones. Because drones don't put American soldiers at risk. This is the danger. Right now,
well,
the stakes are high, right? Every soldier that dies is unacceptable. And even as bad as Fox is, they don't treat like troops dying as like a yeehaw sort of thing, right? Like that's just off the cards. Good, right? But the problem is, war is about to be automated. And when that happens, the cost of a drone getting shot down isn't as high, and so the decisions really tilt in favor of fuck it, let's keep doing it.
I don't think it's the middle ground though, because it doesn't endanger the lives of soldiers, but it creates resentment for the country and endangers the attitudes towards the average American. Yeah. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like
you have people growing up in Yemen with murder drones flying around overhead, like some children growing up like, oh yeah, that's just the death planes flying overhead. I mean, that'll be sort of conducive to a healthy upbringing, not wanting to join a militia or anything, but...
Well, sure, but I'm pretty certain that for a lot of people the attitude is a dead dissident can't be angry.
Well, that's what Trump said. Kill the children, kill the wives. That'll solve the problem, surely.
So and again, that's the talk of like a guy who sees the only thing that's ever worked to maintain order is force. Because if you look at Assad, you look at Saddam Hussein, you look at Muammar Gaddafi, these are guys who kept a grip on a geographic area that wasn't even supposed to be a thing.
Yeah, that like lines drawn in crayon on a map by the British, right?
There's no cultural heritage, historical heritage that ties the people in this landmass together. So Trump sees that and says, all right, I'm going to just do that. I think that's my interpretation of what's going on.
The problem is, right, that for forever the British folds, they did quite well at dividing and conquering, right? Those lines aren't arbitrary. In fact, they're intentionally put to split up people. When you put those countries in weird, why are we mixing the Sunnis and the Shiites? It's not a mistake. That's a calculated way of keeping the people divided. Unfortunately, it's looking like Trump's done very well at uniting everyone against America, which is the opposite to what their aims in the region are. Right?
Well, I maybe not
Bush
because
started us, but yeah, sorry.
I think at the end of the day, like when you look at it from the perspective of, okay, how do we just make it as stable as possible? Is what we historically have done is, all right, let's just insert somebody to have the iron grip, and we have elected who that somebody is, which is I would say the Israeli government. That's who we want to have the most influence in that region, as well as Saudi Arabia, who's our ally as well. So now we have them both working together to make sure that Iran doesn't grow enough to test that hegemony that they've established.
So I used to think like Saudi Arabia was a shit show. Why the hell are we propping up that evil organization? And I think it was Chapo Trap House did a great take on it. They had an expert on that said, yeah, but if the current government got overthrown in Saudi Arabia, do you know who would be running that show? Like they are the least bad option of the options. And it's sort of a similar argument to Russia, is that as bad as Putin is, can you imagine who's underneath him ready to take over? Like
that's actually,
yeah.
you can't imagine, because Putin's done an incredibly good job at just isolating himself at top, and there's no natural successor, which means that no one wants to rock the boat, because when he disappears, it'll be anarchy. It'll be dog eat dog, and whoever's literally the most ruthless oligarch will come out on top, and which is why no one really wants to topple Putin.
And likewise, whoever took over in Saudi probably wouldn't have as good a relationship.
The Saud family, obviously, installed by the British government. Or actually, I think it was installed by British Petroleum. But yeah.
I'm just crying tears of pride right now.
Yeah, actually,
you're welcome.
No, I was thinking about this actually. You mentioned about the British and their policy, and I think that the Americans, especially like the CIA and people, I think they looked at how the East India Company did in India, and how masterfully they basically bribed, assassinated, they set up one power against the other power, and divide and conquer, and the private East India Company ended up ruling the Indian subcontinent. And I think the CIA and America has just tried to emulate this and failed constantly, because they tried to do all these coups, which then backfire, like the 1953 in Iran. They keep on trying to do this kind of a private way of ruling things, and it just keeps on turning to ash. I think the British are uniquely good at being bastards.
And I worry because I think Americans really do have this narrative that they're the good guys, and I don't think we should be too cynical. I think that's a major part of why they get involved. I think the industrial powers we talked about use that to their advantage, but I also think it's their downfall, because like you said, if they just went into it full bastard and went, okay, we're going to take over the region because you guys don't know how to run your shit, and we're going to run your shit, and this is a complete occupation, right? But instead they do this, oh no, we're just going to set up a light police force, and we're going to keep reducing the troop numbers, and we're going to give you elections. And the illusion of democracy, but which then fucks up because they're like, oh, but we want to missile someone in your country.
You voted for the wrong people.
And I think it's really hard, like trying to be the good guys and control a region. Like it's trying to be loved and feared at the same time. It's that Machiavelli question.
I can't remember who it was, but it was a American one of these basically ghouls, I think like Elliot Abrams or someone, who pointed out that the biggest mistake in Iraq was that they didn't kill all the men. Because obviously
well, that's one strategy. In my opinion, the biggest mistake they made in Iraq was making all of the army unemployed.
Well, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
alive and unemployed.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's that thing. Like, if you're like, there was clearly forces that went, you know what you need to do? Just behead every soldier in the country. And there's forces like, no, but that's nasty and evil. It's like, okay, cool. We'll just leave them unemployed then. That's the middle way between those two options. And then you just have a bunch of guys who are like, ISIS? ISIS? Yeah, let's form ISIS. Okay, cool.
Because I think fundamentally, as we were talking about, if you have this cynical short-term view towards war as a quick way of making some money, you don't care about the long-term ramifications. You don't care what's going to happen.
That's how we operate.
Yeah.
For us, it's quarterly. It's a quarterly thing, you know. Like literally, it's like, all right, Q4 is coming. What do we need to do to raise that bottom line? And that's it. That type of mentality, that framework of operating, has seeped into how the government works as well.
And this is my problem with conspiracy theories, because again, if there was an elite cabal of people in power running things, you would expect a coherent strategy that went somewhere.
Well,
and what we're stuck in, this quagmire of inaction, wobbling, flip-flopping, seems exactly to me to be the actions of chaos caused by a bunch of self-interested people trying to make a bit more money in the short term.
I think that's accurate, but I do think, like, for example, there is, it's not like Illuminati. No, it's just like the military-industrial complex. You know, that's as close as it gets to a cabal, where it's like a very organized effort to restructure the way the government works to get the financial gain. And it's a very slow. It's a very slow game. You know, kind of like how the Chinese is kind of build an island here, then build another one. You know what I mean? It was restructure this department here and make sure this law gets passed there, and over time.
Even NATO, right? Like I used to genuinely, and I think a lot of people did, look at the war in former Yugoslavia, right? Like, but NATO had a purpose and a role to fill in the world, and now it just seems like a way for the arms companies to be like, you must spend this percentage of your GDP on our products, otherwise you're in trouble.
Again, that's how it works, right? So like,
it's like a membership club, and you have to pay your fees.
We pass laws to create foreign military aid. Why? Because it's guaranteed income for the people producing whatever that money's getting spent on.
It's a good way, like you say, the economy's good, right? That's why. It's an easy way to boost the stock market when you do shit like that, right? Numbers go up. I don't see how it helps the average farmer in middle America, but
I think
everyone cheers when the numbers go up.
I think that's how it contributes to the chaos, because you do have, at the end of the day, it's like you have the regular citizen who wants to be able to have their self-determination. So it's a struggle they might not even realize they're in, where it's all you have is the power of your vote, when the other side has like this whole infrastructure they've set up so that it dilutes your vote.
Guys, I mean, I was meant to play devil's advocate here, but I got lost and excited. Are we just crazy here? Like, really? Is this just out there conspiracy weirdo theories? Like, what? Like, can we just try for a minute to play devil's advocate? Is there really a bunch of people who are just trying to stop the bad people doing bad things, and we're being incredibly cynical about their wonderful, valiant efforts?
I think there are people in the government who do believe that they're changing the world for the better. I don't think it's
Israel needs our help. Iran's bad. Iraq's bad.
Well, for example, one way to look at American foreign policy is like keep the shipping lanes open. That's what we do for Earth. And
business is good for people. Helps boost the economy.
So and this is something I agree with. That back in the days, I was in this like program where we would intern on Capitol Hill, and it was a mixed bag of people and ideologies. And one of the conservative dudes, we would argue a lot, and that was one of the things that, like, he opened my eyes to. Is like, well, it's true. Like, if you don't have anyone, like, just like in highways, you have police patrolling highways. If you don't have anyone patrolling the shipping lanes, all right, then pirates are gonna be a thing again. This is where I'm gonna play the American exceptionalism card. It's like, we're the ones most fit to serve that role, because we're a naval power. We're just like the British were. We're basically a branch from how the UK has exerted their power. we've become a global naval power, and we're a free trade democracy, right? So this is kind of the way we're exerting. And so there's this dude who talks a lot about geography. His name's Robert Kaplan, and he says that basically, we can have a whole battalion of ships move from one place to another, and it won't be headline news like if when Russia moves their army to the border of the Ukraine.
It's an incident. Yeah. It's expected now. Like, America's free to move wherever.
Yeah, we're like a gator in the swamp. We just we can move all through the water with nobody batting an eyelid. But the moment China starts to exert its power in the South China Sea, it's like a super incident because it's out of the regular, it's out of the norm. And the reason why is because we're saying, yo, we're patrolling your shipping lanes. You have your iPhone because we're out there floating like a gator.
So you think that without the US, the world would just succumb to mass piracy?
Oh no! Well, this is I'm just I was reflecting a common talking point that defends that, but I do think that without something there to keep that order, there will be a little more chaos. Maybe it's not mass piracy, but it will be, you'll see different nations start to flex their naval muscle.
Yeah, the argument is that America would do it and profit from it and tax countries from it and call it freedom. Yeah. And so even if Iran took over, right, all they would do would be to do the same, have power, have influence, want to exert money from it. Right, but and everyone call that tyranny. But if you paid the fee, you would be able to use their shipping lane.
So this is the guy I was telling you about. His name's Robert Kaplan. He's a geographer, right? And he advised George Bush and other presidents on strategy based on geography. And he says what China's doing now is what we did to the Caribbean ages ago. Which is just. They're treating the South China Sea as we treated the Caribbean. This is ours. We need to control it to exert our future power. So they exactly what you said, and they're building ports all over the Indian Ocean because they're trying to access that.
And here's the thing: China's investing massively in Africa, right? I joke about this, but every time someone starves in Africa, the West puts on a concert. Chinese build an airport. Who's going to win in the long term?
Yeah, it's the Silk Road Initiative, and they're also lending a whole bunch of money to Africans, and they're just putting a bunch of African nations in their debt, which is it's a good long term strategy, and China is slowly, quietly, and patiently building up a massive trade network, and just they're going to try to control the southeast of the globe through financial means, which is
but again, you make
better than invading.
It sound nefarious, but it is better than invading, and also that trade network is money and jobs for people and infrastructure and the ability to send things and sell things.
Ultimately, they'll be exploiting African labor for Chinese profits, and
not even because they're bringing in their own labor. You know what I mean?
I was in the Caribbean a couple of years ago, and there was just this unbelievably huge construction project going on. And we just saw 20,000 Chinese people. And they're clearly straight from China. So, all the signs were in Chinese. Everyone was speaking Chinese. They're what is this?
So it's funny because that's kind of we're in Bangkok right now, right? So I work in the tourism industry. And so our one of our biggest clients, it's a charter airline I work for. And we serve Chinese travel agencies. But the thing about how these travel agencies work is they create this whole infrastructure to bring their tour groups, and every single dollar spent goes right back to China. Every single they go to souvenir
Chinese person
shops.
Owns the bus. Chinese person owns the shop. Chinese person
exactly. So and it's exactly what to do with their foreign aid. It's we're gonna build you an airport, but we're gonna build it.
Our workers are going to
we're going to bring people here. So it's and what they're doing is also giving jobs to the billions of people they have in their own country. So it's kind of like a win-win for them because they control everything and they're keeping their people happy at the same time.
There's a racist joke in there about win-win, but I'll let it go.
So I think the way China is conducting itself is, like you said, it's like art of war. It's like don't go into battle and you're gonna win the war.
Well, again, yeah, this is the point, right? That people, Jack Ma, the guy from Alibaba, right? And he goes, look how much money America has wasted on all these wars. And the whole time China's just been doing what the Americans said they're doing, like just focusing on the economy, focusing on economic growth.
That's fact. And at the end of the day, like they're building a middle class for not just themselves, but for the places where they're building these ports. And when people have money, just like I said, the person that votes with theirs, depending on whether their stocks are up, you're going to ignore a lot of the nasty shit going on, like concentration camps. Like they're slowly building connections and including a lot of that Turkic Central Asian area. And they're building stronger ties so that when it comes down to it, they're not, just like Saudi Arabia has totally complied with Israeli policy. When they're seeing these Uyghurs being oppressed, all these nations are not going to bat an eyelid because they have this new infrastructure that connects into that one belt, one road thing.
This was saying earlier about how American soft power diminishing is beneficial for China. So what's happening in Europe, obviously, is we have the worst relationship with America since forever. Since before the wars. And what's happening is that as America withdraws, China's knocking like, hello, do you want some investments? Do you want some tourists? Do you want some trade? How are you guys doing over there? Yeah. If America stops being partners with Europe, China's going to be there.
So is that the answer then? Is that the silver lining in this otherwise depressing episode of the podcast is that it's fine because China is following America's principles of free market trade, and we'll just deal with them, and they'll become the world's new superpower, and they'll be fine.
I was thinking about this actually. Like, I think I would still prefer to live under a US hegemony rather than a Chinese hegemony. But
I definitely, my answer to that.
Oh, well, you answer that, man.
I think
if I have to choose.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think what you're gonna see is, first of all, China's gonna have its internal problems eventually. It's a boiling pot that's gonna boil over.
They already have problems, but yeah.
And all these middle class who are sending their kids to America to become rich, spoiled, entitled brats are not going to become less and less compliant, right?
So I think that's one thing that people,
and their businesses are going to become more
don't
and more
take into
powerful
account
as well.
Yeah,
they're going to have the same problems that America's dealing with now.
So yeah, I think at the end of the day, although China is poised to really become that take that number one spot, I think they're gonna have their own issues, just like Iran is gonna have their own issues. You know what I mean?
Iran already has their own issues.
Also, as easy as it is to beat up on America, let's be clear that we do so because we can. We wouldn't be doing this podcast in China, being like, so why are the Chinese government so fucked up? Like, are they terrible? Like, and for all its flaws, America, they might be sensitive, but you are free to criticize them at least.
For the time being.
Yeah, for the time being. But so I think at the end of the day, what you're gonna see is, we're all very connected to everyone else on the planet, and we're. I think, first of all, not everybody realizes that they don't have like the control over their destiny that they think they have, especially Americans. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that fact. And just like in China, a lot of people they've already been awake to that fact. They're just waiting to act on it. And with all these crises going on, the health crisis, the Hong Kong situation, and they're running these concentration camps. I think you're going to see a lot of these powers that we're talking about, which is elites holding power and influencing government. I think they might start to dissolve or be less powerful as people start to really come and awaken to their own power.
or massive crackdowns and then utilization of those concentration camps. Sorry,
one way or the other.
Well, we nearly got to our first positive point of the podcast. We were so close, Toby.
No.
So close.
Actually, I agree with Pedro. I think that
Pablo.
Pablo. Sorry, my mistake. We are living in a glorious age of interconnectivity, and the fact that me as a Swede, I'm chatting to an American and an English guy in Bangkok at the moment, exchanging ideas that people will hopefully be listening to around the world. That's a sign of the future, and this communication, this global communication, is going to be how I think we defeat the more sort of nefarious and cynical elements of global foreign policy. As long as the people are talking to each other, the elites will eventually lose power over us. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's an accurate assessment, man.
That might be about as positive as we can get on this topic. So that might be a point to end it there. Does anyone have any inspiring quotes they'd like to share?
I could quote Elliot Abrams again.
Yeah,
but
see the guy that made the Star Wars movies?
Or
was that his brother?
No, he was a guy who covered up a bunch of American war crimes in South America. So never mind. I'm not gonna. Never mind.
Was it a nice quote at least?
Yes, he said in 1985, when remarking on funding the Contra death squads, the purpose of our aid is to permit people who are fighting on our side to use more violence.
No, I think you're going to have to cut out that quote. It wasn't inspiring at all. It's depressing, bro.
Well, but it's pretty accurate. That's kind of like you said, we install dictators as long as they're on our side and they acquiesce to our will. That's how you control shit, and that's how you exert your foreign policy anyway. You know what I mean? You need.
Let me spin that part. So, guys, if you just acquiesce to the will, might is right. Okay, our overlords are probably benevolent. Long may they live and reign. And if they're happy, we will be happy too.
Okay.
I'll leave you with that shiny, happy thought.
All right.
Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, I'm good.
Right.
Actually, the only thing I'll plug is Wasabi Bites.
Yeah, man. Can we get one of your tracks?
Oh, hell
on the
yeah.
Outro music for this episode?
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's do that then. Brilliant. Right, thank you so much for joining us today.
No doubt.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Lord of the things, got way more than 7 dozen rings. Got goons lurking, they're all 7 certain. Fuck with me, they'll hurt. Bet it ain't a thing. Serve you the juice if proving you worth. Swerve on our adversaries, let go like 30 birdies. Cannon steady chirping. Fucking fake raw dog who said you was flirting. Seeing 3 heads, vision ain't blurry. It ain't your stomach growling, that's Mr. Severy. You burned all the liars and buried the bards. Fluffy is huffing and licking its chops. Oh my god, but you say you're my you. Lord of the things, use a thing too. No Dr. Seuss, Dr. Time Space Loose. That's how we hitch the ride, how the fuck is a fluke. stole a heart of gold. So trillion give grow. Oh, surprise, a dent in your ride. Complaints fly high and you can't run a wire. No explanation why everyone aping. No gorilla glue, still copied and pasted. No escape when you escape with the flips. Get flip, it's spread in your direction. You taught them how to flex, now they think you're demented. Lord of the things, why you go and test them? Show me some spec or I'll send you my specters. Shutters in the neck, just the neck disconnect. You see, I rock the schoolhouse, blew up the lectern. It's true, even true inside truth in my lecture. Give you my payload, sprayed in your brain so you can get things to and slowly defame, yo.